Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
Commander Elias Vance remembered the exact moment the sky broke. Orion Gate had once been nothing more than a region of empty vacuum, a gravitational anomaly near the outer colonies where trade ships spent space to shave weeks off their journeys. It was quiet, strategic, forgettable, until the first alien structure unfolded there like a metal flower. It hadn't arrived. It had revealed itself. One moment the stars shimmered undisturbed. The next, reality rippled, space folding outward as if something enormous had been hiding behind it. A ring the size of a moon emerged, rotating silently. No engines, no heat signature, just impossible geometry, suspended against the void. That was when the war began. Elias had been 36 hours into his command when Fleet Command sent the transmission. Unknown construct detected. Investigate. Avoid escalation. They escalated anyway. The first human ship that approached the ring vanished. No explosion. No debris. It simply dissolved into particles of light. Then the ring opened, and the stars came pouring out. Thousands of vessels, sleek, organic shapes that glowed along their spines, streamed from the structure like a swarm of living comets. They moved without thrusters, bending space itself as propulsion. Humanity fired first. Elias gave the order. He still heard it sometimes in his sleep. Engage! The Battle of Orion Gate lasted 3 years. 3 years of strategy, retreat, counteroffensive, and desperate innovation. Human engineers learned quickly. They reverse-engineered alien fragments. They developed pulse cannons that disrupted gravitational folds. They adapted, but the enemy adapted faster. The alien fleet never communicated in words. No threats, no demands, only precise, calculated assaults that dismantled colonies and shipyards with clinical efficiency. Yet they never attacked Earth directly. That was the mystery. On the final day, Elias stood on the bridge of the Horizon Breaker, humanity's last heavy dreadnought station at Orion Gate. Half the fleet was gone. The other half limped behind shattered defensive satellites. On the forward display, the alien ring glowed brighter than ever before. Energy spike detected. His tactical officer whispered. "How big?" Elias asked. There was a long pause. "System level." Elias swallowed. They weren't about to destroy the fleet. They were about to erase the entire sector. "Evacuate remaining vessels," Elias ordered calmly. "All ships, fall back beyond the Kuiper defensive line." "And the Horizon Breaker, sir?" He stared at the ring. "If that thing detonates, nothing within 3 astronomical units survives." Silence spread across the bridge as the crew understood. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Commander Vance. Retreat immediately." "That's an order." Ships began to peel away, engines flaring bright against the darkness. The alien ring pulsed. Space twisted. And then everything went white. Elias expected death. Instead, he woke up. Cold air brushed his face. His uniform was intact, though scorched at the edges. He lay on a smooth floor that felt warm beneath his palms. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him curved like the inside of a shell, faint lines of light tracing its structure. The material wasn't metal. Not quite. It shimmered like liquid glass frozen mid-motion. He pushed himself upright. Gravity felt lighter here. Beyond him stood tall figures arranged in a semicircle. They were vaguely humanoid, but elongated, limbs slender, torsos almost translucent. Light flowed beneath their skin in slow pulses, as the stars lived inside them. He tried to stand fully. 2 of them stepped forward, not aggressively, but attentively. Their voices entered his mind without sound. "Human Commander. Stabilization complete." Elias clenched his jaw. "You could have said hello before vaporizing my fleet." There was a faint ripple of light among them. Vaporization was not the outcome. His eyes narrowed. "Where am I?" "A vessel outside conventional space-time." "Translation, you are safe." "Safe." That word didn't sit right. "Why am I alive?" he asked. A pause. Light flickered between them like silent conversation. You displayed anomalous tactical resistance. You prioritized evacuation over personal survival. Statistical deviation noted. Elias exhaled sharply. You kidnapped me because I was inconvenient? Incorrect. You are preserved. He laughed once, humorless. Preserved sounds worse. A transparent section of the chamber shifted, revealing a view beyond. Stars, but not the stars he knew. Constellations unfamiliar. Galaxies shaped differently. The Orion Nebula wasn't where it should be. He felt his stomach drop. You moved me. We relocated the conflict zone. The Orion Gate will no longer endanger your species. His pulse quickened. You ended the war? The evaluation phase is complete. Evaluation. They had been studying them, testing them. The realization hit, like another explosion. Humanity had been fighting for survival. They had been participating in an exam. Elias stepped forward. How many worlds did you evaluate like this? Silence again. Not an answer. That told him enough. The tallest luminous being approached him. Light gathered more intensely within its form. Commander Elias Vance of Earth, your species has demonstrated resilience, adaptation, and sacrificial loyalty. Elias clenched his fists. You killed millions. Casualties were minimized within acceptable thresholds for emergent civilizations. Rage flared in his chest, but he forced it down. Anger wouldn't help. Information would. So what now? He asked quietly. The chamber shifted. A doorway formed behind the luminous figures, opening like petals parting. Soft light spilled through. The conflict phase has concluded. A reward is customary. Elias frowned. A reward? The figures stepped aside, and two silhouettes appeared in the doorway. He didn't know it yet, but in that moment, the war truly ended. Because whatever came next would not be fought with cannons or fleets. It would be fought with choice. Rocket. The doorway widened without a sound. Soft light spilled across the chamber floor, casting long, unfamiliar shadows. For a moment, Elias thought the brightness was some kind of visual distortion, another alien trick meant to overwhelm his senses. Then the silhouette stepped forward, and the light dimmed around them. They weren't luminous like the Council. They were solid, real, tangible in a way the shimmering beings were not. The first girl moved as though gravity barely claimed her. Her skin carried a faint blue luminescence, not glowing, but reflecting light like water at night. Long silver hair drifted gently behind her, though there was no wind. Her eyes were wide and impossibly deep, colors shifting within them like distant galaxies seen through thick atmosphere. The second girl stepped out more decisively. She was warmth where the first was cool light. Her skin held a golden undertone like sunlit sand. Her dark hair fell in heavy waves over one shoulder, sharply contrasting the clean lines of the chamber. There was tension in the way she stood, balanced, ready, observant. Elias realized they were studying him just as carefully as the Council had. The luminous being spoke. Commander Vance, you are permitted to select one companion. He blinked slowly. Companion, a representative, an emissary, a bond-forming exchange. Elias glanced between the two girls again. This was not random. This was intentional. The blue-skinned girl stepped forward first. My name is Lyra, she said softly. Her voice was melodic, but not fragile, controlled, composed. It seemed to resonate slightly in the air itself. I am of the Thalaran Collective from Vega Ocean Systems. Ocean systems. Elias pictured entire planets covered in water. Lyra's posture was calm, hands loosely folded before her. We have studied your transmissions, your music, your historical archives. He frowned. You were watching us before the war. Yes, she answered gently. Long before. The golden-skinned girl gave a small, amused huff. They watched. My people debated. She stepped forward. Kaylee's of Arkan. Her voice carried strength, clear, steady, unafraid. Desert world, high-gravity atmosphere. We value endurance. Elias noticed faint geometric markings along her forearm, subtle, like tattoos etched in metallic gold. You volunteered? He asked her. She held his gaze without flinching. Yes. Why? A corner of her mouth lifted. Because you refused to retreat. Lyra tilted her head slightly. He evacuated his fleet. Kaylee's nodded, after calculating that he could buy them time. Elias felt a strange chill. You both reviewed the battle logs. All of them, Lyra said. Multiple times, Kaylee's added. He exhaled slowly. So I'm not a prisoner. No, Lyra said. Not exactly, Kaylee's corrected. The chamber shifted subtly, walls rippling with faint patterns, almost like a heartbeat. Elias crossed his arms. Explain this to me clearly. Why are there two of you? Lyra answered first. The Council civilization encompasses many systems. We differ in philosophy. Kaylee's continued. The Thalerin, she gestured lightly toward Lyra, believe emerging species should be guided gently, observed, influenced through cultural exchange. Lyra nodded calmly. Peace through integration. And your people? Elias asked Kaylee's. She met his eyes. We believe strength should be tested directly. Elias stared at her. So you were the war faction. Kaylee's didn't deny it. Yes. Lyra's gaze lowered slightly. The conflict was a compromise between our peoples. It clicked. This wasn't just about humanity. This was about their internal divide. Elias felt the weight of it settle in. You're not asking me to choose a girl, he said quietly. You're asking me to choose which ideology shapes first contact. The chamber fell silent. The luminous council flickered more intensely. Lyra looked at him with something like admiration. You understand quickly. Kaylee's crossed her arms again. But this time, there was approval in her expression. That's why they're uncertain about you. Elias let out a dry laugh. Uncertain? Lyra's silver hair drifted as she spoke. Humans adapt unpredictably. You innovate under pressure. You form alliances rapidly, but you also fracture internally. Kaylee's tilted her head. You are chaotic, but effective. Thanks, Elias muttered. He stepped closer to them. Lyra's presence felt cool, like standing beside deep water. Kaylee's radiated intensity, like heat from stone under a sun. Two different energies. Two possible futures. If he chose Lyra, humanity's first alliance with the stars would be shaped by diplomacy, art, understanding. If he chose Kaylee's, it would be forged through strength, direct partnership, mutual defense. Both were powerful. Both were dangerous. Lyra studied him. You are troubled. Yeah, he admitted, because this isn't a reward. It's a pivot point. Kaylee smirked slightly. Now you're thinking like a species worth keeping. Elias shot her a look. Was that ever in question? The two girls exchanged a glance. Not hostile, not friendly, competitive. Lyra spoke softly. Our civilizations rarely cooperate directly. This arrangement was designed to clarify direction. Kaylee's added, you were selected because you prioritize survival of others over self. Elias stared at them. And you think that makes me easy to manipulate? No, Lyra said gently. We think it makes you dangerous. A silence followed. Not tense. Measured. Elias looked at Lyra, then at Kaylee's, then back at the glowing council. Let me guess, he said quietly. If I refuse to choose? The chamber's light dimmed slightly. A selection is required. Kaylee's watched him carefully. Lyra's expression remained calm, but there was anticipation there now. Elias inhaled slowly. He had commanded fleets, ordered retreats, sent ships into impossible battles. But this might be the most consequential decision of his life. And he hadn't even left the room yet. The chamber felt smaller now. Not physically, but strategically. Commander Elias Vance had stood inside collapsing cruisers, inside burning colonies, inside tactical rooms where defeat hovered like smoke in the air. This felt worse. Because this wasn't a battle he could map. The luminous council pulsed softly, their internal light shifting in layered frequencies, communication beyond sound. Lyra stood poised and tranquil, hands resting lightly at her sides. Kaylee's remained balanced, weight evenly distributed, as if ready to move at any second. And all of them were watching him, waiting. Commander Vance. The council echoed in his mind. The selection must be made. Elias exhaled slowly through his nose. You keep using that word like this is ceremonial, he said. But you didn't bring me here for tradition. The tallest luminous being stepped forward. Clarify. You studied us before the war, Elias said. You tested us during it. And now you want to see what we do when given influence. Lyra's eyes flickered with quiet approval. Kaylee's lips curved faintly. Elias continued. This isn't about companionship. It's about trajectory. If I choose Lyra, your council strengthens the integration faction. If I choose Kaylee's, you validate the strength first doctrine. The chamber dimmed a fraction. A pause. Not denial. Confirmation. Lyra spoke gently. The decision carries symbolic weight. Kaylee's added, and practical consequences. Elias looked at her. How practical? Kaylee's didn't hesitate. If you choose me, Arkan forms a first offensive pact with Earth. Shared technology. Military collaboration. Lyra followed calmly. If you choose me, the Thalaran open cultural and scientific exchanges. Terraforming support. Medical advancements. Elias let out a quiet breath. You're offering humanity two different futures. Correct, the council responded. He walked a slow circle around them, thinking the war had cost millions of lives. Entire colonies were gone, families destroyed. Humanity was exhausted. What would Earth need most? Defense or healing? Kaylee's broke the silence. You're calculating resource deficits. He glanced at her. Old habit. You lost infrastructure, she said. Fleet capacity is reduced by 47%. Lyra added softly. Atmospheric damage in 3 outer colonies exceeds safe parameters. Elias stopped walking. You monitored that too? Yes, Lyra said. Kaylee's voice hardened slightly. We monitored everything. He turned toward the viewing window. Outside, strange constellations shimmered across a sky that wasn't his. You relocated the conflict zone, he said quietly. You could have annihilated us. Yes, the council replied. Why didn't you? A longer pause this time. Then, because extinction yields no data. Elias' jaw tightened. So this is still data. Lyra stepped closer, but respectfully. Commander, our peoples are not unified in philosophy. Your choice informs internal governance. Kaylee's added, you're not just shaping Earth's future, you're shaping ours. That landed heavier than anything else. He looked between them again. 2 alien civilizations standing at the same crossroads humanity once faced countless times. Fear versus cooperation. Strength versus trust. And somehow, they had handed that decision to a single human officer. That's irresponsible, Elias muttered. Kaylee's raised an eyebrow. Explain. You're outsourcing your ideological conflict to an outsider. Lyra tilted her head. Sometimes clarity requires perspective. Or deniability, Elias countered. Kaylee's laughed once, low and sharp. I like him. The council's glow intensified. Commander Vance. The window for indecision narrows. Why? He demanded. Instability within the collective increases, while unresolved. So it wasn't just philosophical. It was political. He stepped closer to Lyra first. If I choose you, does Arkan accept that peacefully? Kaylee's answered instead. No. Lyra remained honest. There would be tension. Elias nodded slowly. Then he turned to Kaylee's. If I choose you, the Thalaran comply? Lyra spoke gently. We would not obstruct, but trust would diminish. So either way, Elias said, I create imbalance. Yes, the council confirmed. He stared at the floor for a long moment. He had faced impossible tactical dilemmas before. Situations where every option carried loss. This felt familiar in structure. 2 strong options, both incomplete, both divisive. Then something clicked. He looked up. What happens if I refuse? The chamber stilled. Not silence. Stillness. Lyra's expression shifted. Subtle surprise. Kaylee's eyes sharpened. The council's light dimmed slightly. Refusal was not included in parameters. Of course it wasn't, Elias muttered. Kaylee stepped closer. You'd risk losing both alliances? I'd risk something worse by choosing, he replied. Lyra studied him carefully. Explain your reasoning. Elias straightened. You tested humanity through war. We adapted. We survived. You say that impressed you? Yes, the council responded. Then understand this, Elias continued. Humans are strongest when we stop dividing ourselves into binary choices. Kaylee's crossed her arms again, but she was listening. You want me to validate one ideology over the other, he said. But your internal conflict mirrors ours. Competing doctrines. Competing visions of survival. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly brighter. You propose an alternative. Yes. The council pulsed. State it. Elias inhaled. I choose neither. The words echoed through the chamber. Kaylee's didn't react immediately. Lyra blinked slowly. The council's glow flickered irregularly. Clarify. I refuse to let humanity become a symbol used to strengthen one faction over another, Elias said calmly. If there's going to be an alliance, it won't start by picking sides. Kaylee's voice dropped. You understand that could result in withdrawal. Yes, Lyra asked softly. And if we leave your species isolated? Elias met her gaze. Then we rebuild alone, like we always have. Silence filled the chamber. Not tension, not hostility. Something else. Assessment. Finally, Kaylee's uncrossed her arms. You'd walk away from advanced technology if the price is becoming a political tool? Yes. Lyra's silver hair drifted slightly as if caught in invisible current. You prioritize sovereignty. I prioritize balance, Elias corrected. He turned to the luminous beings. You said you were evaluating whether humanity could form bonds after war. Here's your data. The chamber's light shifted again, more controlled now. Elias continued. If your civilizations can't cooperate internally, how do you expect us to trust either of you separately? A long pause followed, longer than any before. Then something changed. The luminous figures brightened, not in agitation, but in what almost felt like recalibration. Lyra looked at Kaylee's. Kaylee's looked back at her. For the first time, there was no competition in their expressions, only thought. And somewhere deep within the alien vessel outside space-time, the parameters of the experiment began to break. Silence did not mean emptiness. In the chamber beyond space-time, silence meant computation. The luminous council's bodies shimmered with layered currents of light, pulses crossing through one another in patterns too complex for human language. Elias felt the pressure of it, like standing inside the core of a machine that had just been forced to reconsider its design. Lyra and Kaylee stood a few steps apart now. Not opposed, not aligned, watching, waiting. Elias remained still. He had made his decision. There was no retracting it now. Finally, the tallest luminous being stepped forward. Commander Vance, your refusal introduces an unmodeled outcome. Story of my species, Elias replied evenly. A faint ripple moved through the council. Not irritation. Recognition. You reject binary selection. Yes. You propose cooperative dual engagement. Yes. The chamber's glow intensified. Risk assessment indicates internal destabilization within our collective. Kaylee spoke before Elias could respond. Destabilization was already increasing. Lyra nodded. The war accelerated ideological fracture. Elias looked between them. You were heading toward your own conflict. Neither denied it. The council's light dimmed slightly, then flared in a new rhythm. Commander Vance, if both representatives accompany you, their cooperation becomes mandatory. Kaylee's raised an eyebrow. Mandatory cooperation. Lyra glanced at her. A novel experience for us. Elias allowed himself the faintest smile. Welcome to diplomacy. The viewing window shifted. The unfamiliar constellations dissolved, replaced by projection. Earth. Scarred orbital stations. Reconstruction fleets. Solar arrays flickering weakly. Humanity was bruised, but alive. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. They think I'm dead, he said quietly. Your vessel was recorded as destroyed, the council confirmed. Kaylee stepped beside him. Studying the image, your species rebuilds quickly. We don't have a choice, he replied. Lyra joined them. The Thalaran can stabilize 3 of your damaged atmospheres within 1 orbital cycle. Kaylee's added, Arkin can restore defensive grid capacity beyond pre-war levels. Elias glanced at them. And you're both willing to do that? They looked at each other. A long look. Then Lyra spoke first. Yes. Kaylee's nodded once. Yes. The Council's light shifted into a steady, unified glow. Joint emissary deployment approved. Elias exhaled slowly. So that's it. Not entirely. The luminous figure approached him. Your species will not be informed of the evaluation parameters. Good. Elias said immediately. Lyra tilted her head. You prefer ignorance? I prefer dignity, he corrected. If we build an alliance, it's not because we pass a cosmic exam. The Council processed this. Then, accepted. The chamber began to transform. Walls reconfiguring. Space folding inward. A new vessel forming around them. Sleeker, more compact. Designed for transit. Kaylee's glanced around, impressed despite herself. Personal transport class. Lyra looked toward Elias. You will pilot? He smirked slightly. I hope so. I don't trust autopilot designed by people who erase fleets. Kaylee's let out a short laugh. Lyra's lips curved faintly. The tension that had defined the room since his awakening was gone. Not erased. Redirected. Before departure, the Council addressed them one final time. Commander Vance. Representatives Lyra and Kaylee's. This action restructures interstellar governance. Outcome probability remains indeterminate. Elias folded his arms. That's the fun part. Human unpredictability remains statistically disruptive. Also accurate. A pause. Then, unexpectedly, disruption may prove evolutionary. Lyra's eyes brightened softly. Kaylee's posture straightened with pride. Elias looked at the luminous beings, the architects of a war that had nearly broken humanity. You could have conquered us, he said. Yes. You could have wiped us out. Yes. Instead, you're trusting us. A final pulse of unified light filled the chamber. We are choosing to. The new vessel disengaged. Space folded. Stars stretched into ribbons of white. Within seconds, they were no longer outside reality. They were moving through it. Elias stood at the forward console, hands hovering over unfamiliar controls that responded intuitively to touch. The interface adapted to him, learning his neural patterns in real time. Behind him, Lyra and Kaylee stood side by side. Not competitors now. Partners in something neither of their civilizations had attempted before. Kaylee's broke the silence first. When we reach Earth, your leaders may react with hostility. They probably will, Elias admitted. Lyra spoke gently. Fear is a natural response. Yeah, Elias said, but so is hope. He glanced back at them. You too ready to be ambassadors to the most stubborn species in this quadrant. Kaylee smirked. I survived Arkin's desert trials. Lyra's eyes shimmered. I navigated Thalaran political councils. Elias grinned faintly. You'll fit right in. Ahead of them, Earth grew larger in the viewport. Blue oceans, clouds swirling, orbital debris slowly being cleared. Home, 3 survivors of a war that had begun as an experiment now carried the weight of something far more dangerous than battle. Trust. Elias felt it settle in his chest. Not fear, not anger. Responsibility. He looked at Lyra, then at Kaylee's. 2 alien civilizations. 2 philosophies. 1 uncertain future. They told me to choose one of you as my reward, he said quietly. Kaylee's crossed her arms lightly. And you refused. Lyra tilted her head. You altered the premise. Elias faced forward as Earth filled the sky. No, he said. I just chose something better. And as a first joint alien-human vessel entered Earth's orbit, the age of isolation ended. Not with conquest, not with surrender, but with 3 figures standing together at the edge of a new galaxy.